Hey everybody, this is David, and I'm excited because today I'm going to be talking about Google BigQuery and how to get set up in Google Cloud so you can run queries in Google BigQuery. So today we'll cover how to create a new project in Google Cloud, how to navigate to the BigQuery tool, how to find some public data that we can query, how to set up our query space, and then finally, we're going to run a couple queries. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that you're going to want to do is to navigate to the Google Cloud console. So you'll have to create an account, but what you can do is just type in this URL in your browser, console.cloud.google.com. And so let's just assume you've created your account, you've navigated here. The first thing you're going to have to do is create a project. So the way you do that is there will be this drop down at the top, and we go over here and we click on New Project. And this is going to take us to a page where we can create a new project. So you can see I have to give my project a name, and it cannot be changed later. So we're going to have to make sure we pick a really good project name. It suggests either My Project 50778 or Lyrical Shore 397 whatever. I don't like any of those names, so I'm going to go over to my handy hipster business name generator, and let's see if we can come up with a better name. Bone and Lumber. I love it. All right, so we're going to call this project Bone and Lumber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fantastic. So we got a great name. Let's go ahead and create our project. And you could even see some of my other projects that I was creating earlier today as a test. So right now it's creating our new project. It's done. Let's select it. So you can see at the bottom it says now we're viewing our Bone and Lumber 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project. And if you go up to our project selector, you can choose that project, of course. So now let's navigate to BigQuery now that we have created a project. So in order to get to BigQuery, what you can do is you can either click this button here, run a query in BigQuery. You can either type it in the search bar, or you can use the navigation menu, which is what I'm going to do. So I click over here, I highlighted BigQuery, and then I'm going to click on the SQL workspace. So it takes me here to my SQL workspace. And it's telling me that I need to enable billing to upgrade to the full BigQuery experience. I'm going to do that later. With Google Cloud, if you are a new user, if you've just created your account, you get $300 in free cloud credits. So you can do all kinds of stuff in Google Cloud and learn. And so you don't have to worry about paying right away. All right, now that we are in Google BigQuery, let's move on and find some public data that we can query. And you'll see on the left-hand side, we've already got BigQuery public data. This data set is sitting here waiting for us. And if we ever lost that data set, if we couldn't find it, what you can do is you can type in the name of whatever data set you're looking for in the search bar, hit enter, and it will show us that data set. So if we click on this arrow here, it's going to show us all of the different data sets that are inside this BigQuery public data project. So if we scroll down, there's all kinds of really interesting data in here. There's even like Dogecoin, crypto data, but let's go to the COVID-19 New York Times data set, and I'm going to open up the US counties table. So I'm going to click the three buttons here next to that table, and I'm going to choose Open in a New Tab. Fantastic. So this has opened up my table in a new tab, and we can see here we're looking at the table schema. So all the columns that are in this table. And we've got the name of every column, and we've got the data type, and we've even got a description of what kind of data is in that column. The next thing I'm going to do is go over to details, where we have some information about the table, when it was created, and even the size of the table, how many rows are in the table. And then I'm going to go over to preview. And here I can preview the actual data in the table itself. So the next thing that I want to do now that I've got a table in mind is I want to go ahead and I want to set up my query space so I can write a query. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hide this list of tables because I don't need to worry about them anymore. I've already picked one. I'll press this button right here to toggle our panel and hide it. The next thing that I want to do is I want to split our tabs here by moving this one to the right. And the way you can do that, if I click on this little drop down, I click split tab to the right, and my data set and all the information about it is on the right. And on the left, I've got my query window where I can write a query. So I'm going to move this over a little bit. I still can see the schema here, and I'm going to begin writing a query. Let's do it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the select SQL keyword, and I'm going to type in this star. I'm going to select star, which just means I'm selecting every column and every row. All right, and BigQuery is already even getting mad at me and telling me that I'm doing this all wrong. It says I must have a from clause. So let's go ahead and add a from clause. We have to choose which table we're going to query. Select star from, and I want to query from our US counties table. So here's how we do that. We go over here, we click on details, and you'll see we have the table ID, and then there's this button right here. And if I hover over it, it says copy to clipboard. So I click that, and then what I want to do is I want to type the talk mark, which is this button just to the left of the 1 key. And then I will paste what's in my clipboard and type another talk mark. Now, you don't have to have these talk marks around your table name, but I'll show you why I did that. So let's say I accidentally closed out my US counties table. Oh no, I don't know how to find it again. Here's what you can do. If you hover over this table name and you hold in the control key and then click it, it will open up the table information in this little window on the right-hand side. And if you put these talk marks to the left and right of the table name, it will turn it green so you can do that. If you don't have them, you can't control click. So we see here, this is our US counties table in our COVID-19 New York Times data set from our BigQuery public data project. Let's go ahead and let's run this query. So I'm going to click run. And it will take just a second. Fantastic. So we have a query result. Hooray, we got some data. And you can see at the bottom here, we have about 3.2 million rows, and we have all of our different columns in our data set. Now, I want to talk a little bit about query cost. So if we go to our job information tab, you can see here we have bytes processed, 155 megabytes. Now it says 0 bytes billed, and we'll talk about why we weren't billed anything. But it's important to know a little bit about query cost for how BigQuery calculates what it's going to charge you. So let's go over here to our BigQuery pricing guide. If we scroll down a little bit here, we see whenever you run a query, it will cost you $6.25 per terabyte. But also, the first 1 terabyte per month of data that you query is free. So we actually didn't get billed anything for this query because I've run less than 1 terabyte of data this month. And again, if you are new to Google Cloud, if you create a new account, Google gives you $300 in free cloud credits. But let's say that I had already queried more than 1 terabyte this month. How much would I pay for this query? It's 155.7 megabytes. Well, let's figure out we have how many megabytes in 1 terabyte. For 1 terabyte is 1 million megabytes. So that would be like 155 megabytes divided by 1 million megabytes in a terabyte. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need another 0 times $6.25 per terabyte. And this would cost us, this is in dollars, like 9/10 of a cent to run this query in BigQuery. Okay, so you're not gonna really rack up an incredible cloud bill playing around with tiny little public data sets, but just an important note about how BigQuery charges you for data and how much. So let's dig into this a little bit more. We've run a select star query, but what if I didn't want all of the columns in this data set? What if I really don't care about deaths? I only care about like confirmed cases, so I don't want the deaths column. So I could do select star except deaths, right? Which is the column I don't want. And something you should notice here, our previous query was 155 megabytes, but this one is only going to be 131 megabytes. And that's because Google BigQuery charges you based on the columns that you're querying. And it's important to know it's the columns and not the rows. So if you query fewer columns, your query cost is lower. So let's go ahead and let's run this query, and we'll take a look at our result. And we should get back, hooray, all of our columns except the deaths column. And we still have, of course, the same number of rows because we've selected every row in the data set with our select star. Let's say we only wanted the first 5 rows. Maybe we just want to peek at the data. We don't really care about getting back a ton of rows. We can type in this keyword, limit, and then the number of rows we want. And an important point to notice here is our query is still the same cost, 131 megabytes. So limiting the number of rows in your result doesn't necessarily, or I should say does not, reduce the cost of your query or how much data is being queried. It just reduces the number of rows in your result. And I'm going to run this query using if you hold in Control and press Enter, that's a hotkey to run queries, so you don't always have to keep pressing this Run button right here. The last thing that I want to show you today, before we conclude, is if we go over here to Job Information, you can see I've run this query a couple times now. And let's take a look at some of the statistics. It says bytes processed, 0 bytes. Results cached. So this is interesting. Now, wait a minute. I thought this query was like 131 megabytes. Well, I've run the query already once before, and so if I run it again, it just pulls the same results out of the cache. It's cached the results. And so if you run a query, you can rerun that query as many times as you want until the cache clears, and it's not going to cost you any more money. And so how long does that cache last? How long does the BigQuery cache last? After 24 hours, the cache is clear. So if I run this query again tomorrow, it's going to cost me another 9/100ths of a cent. All right. I think that's it for today. That's enough information about BigQuery to get you started and get you a little dangerous. So thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.